I would describe my role as one that bridges the academic affairs side of the university and the student affairs side of the university to come together with the shared purpose of supporting students and challenging them, both in where they live as well as in the classroom. And the main purpose of my role as the Director of Academic Residential Partnerships is to make sure that students understand and gain a passion for learning outside of the classroom and start to integrate their learning across different experiences in their undergraduate life. So, for example, some of our students participate in living learning communities, which are small cohorts of students that live together in the same residence hall. And one of the things that they may do together is, let's say we have an outdoor leadership one. So they actually can take an adventure-based learning class, and that will help them to understand what it is that they're doing when they're going out into the quote-unquote wilderness, doing team building and learning about the leadership qualities in outdoor education, and those kinds of experiences help students really understand that learning is a constant endeavor, and that they can gain quite a bit from learning, not just only academically, but socially and personally as well. So my work in bringing together academic and residential experiences for students is intended to support students in all of the ways that you mentioned. So it's about educating the whole student and supporting the whole student. One of the things that research has demonstrated is that if we focus on the first year experience and we make that transition from high school into college, a smooth one for students, and we support them all along the way, both academically as well as personally and developmentally, then they have a much higher rate of success in school. And that success is not just about academic success, but also social success and feeling a sense of self-efficacy, being able to navigate both the college environment, but also the new social world that they're involved in. And so my work as Director of Academic Residential Partnerships at a mid-size private liberal arts institution helps to make that experience, that entry, more intimate and smaller for those students. We have over 6,000 students at Elon University, and some of our efforts in academic residential partnerships are designed to help those students have a smaller sub-community within the larger undergraduate community. And we know from research that actually helps them flourish as students. Can you read the second part of the question?
Yes. What techniques for student success do you suggest?
Small groups of students that are brought together for any number of reasons. It could be because a shared interest or passion, or because they come from a nice diverse set of backgrounds, and you're trying to introduce them to people who are unlike them but in a supportive environment. I think that facilities are extremely important in terms of being able to design spaces that enhance students' success. So that's everything from the residence hall to the classroom. So I think when we're talking about supporting students, we need to talk about meeting them where they're at. So in a world in which they're constantly on their phones and using technology, we need to have classroom environments that support that. We need to have classroom environments that will allow them, and assignments and exercises that will allow them to use the tools that they already are comfortable with and familiar with in order to have that smooth transition into college. Experiences that don't just support the student, but things that challenge them are extremely important as well, because otherwise they will not grow. And I would say attention to differences in a way that allows students to feel comfortable to lean into discomfort, I should say. So to lean into discomfort, but in an environment in which they feel supported to be able to make mistakes and to be able to learn from other people's different points of view and different life experiences and backgrounds. So that's a great question because I think the core of my job is to try to bring people together and to collaborate across divisions and across departments. And I would say that I'm privileged to have been able to have the experience in higher ed where ever since I got out of graduate school, I've always had this kind of hybrid role where I've been in a faculty role and a staff role at the same time. And it has actually allowed me to code switch in terms of student affairs speak versus faculty speak. And that has been extremely important to my success in being able to bring people together. So I have to be able to translate if I need to. I have to be able to translate student affairs priorities and initiatives and needs to faculty members who may find student affairs and student life and everything that they do to be completely foreign to them. And the same is true in terms of being able to translate faculty life and expectations to student life professionals. So I'll give you an example of that. In every single one of our residents, we have them, they're called residential neighborhoods, and every single one of our neighborhoods, which are clusters of buildings that all have the same theme and have the same programming, etc. We have a faculty director and a community director. The faculty director is the faculty head, and the community director is the live-in full-time professional res life staff member. And the two of them have to have a solid partnership to be able to deliver the programming and do the educational initiatives that they're doing in their neighborhoods. And I hold several workshops and trainings throughout the year with faculty and staff, both apart and together, to be able to help them learn one another's roles. And so in terms of my role, I would not be able to do that from just a theory standpoint. I couldn't just read about it. I need to have experienced it to be able to do that. So I think that experience has allowed me to be able to manage that translation and help bring student affairs professionals and faculty together. And another, I guess, a strategy that I've used is making sure that each one of them knows what the other person's role is. And this is true for any kind of cross-collaboration across divisions and departments at a university. If you're bringing a whole committee of people together from across the university, you need to understand what they represent from a departmental standpoint. So if they are in a community partnerships department, or if they're in the Department of Anthropology and Sociology, you need to understand what the missions are, what the goals are of that department, and then also of that individual staff member and what their role is to be able to help facilitate any kind of common project that you're working on. And so I'd say that translates from both the one-on-one dealing with two people who are from different divisions of the university and different departments, as well as larger groups of folks that are brought together to do some kind of community work or committee work. Okay, so I'm going to give you the brief history of my career that will tell you a little bit about how I've addressed the needs of students who come from minoritized populations. So right out of grad school, I became the associate director for the Women's Studies program in the Center for Research on Women at University of Pennsylvania. I did that for 8 years, and that is really, you can't do women's studies or gender studies or sexuality studies well without doing it through an intersectional lens. So there's no way in which you can't be thinking about constantly those different standpoints, those different positions, and different social positions, including minoritized positions across different societies, cultures, time, etc. And of course, a lot of our majors and minors in that program were students who identified as someone coming from either an underprivileged and underserved or minoritized population or background. And so I then became the director of the Women's Center at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, and we served the needs of a whole host of students, primarily women, but women from all walks of life. We had a huge international population. We had significant racial and ethnic diversity on our campus at Case Western, a little bit more so, I think, than University of Pennsylvania, and certainly more than my current institution, which is Elon University, which is a predominantly white institution. And so we have a huge emphasis. My role actually reported up until June 1st of this year due to some staffing changes. I reported up through someone who was the Associate Provost for Academic and Inclusive Excellence. She was, for all intents and purposes, the Chief Diversity Officer of the institution and the second in command in terms of academic officer at the institution under our provost. And so everything that we've done in our residential campus, which is something that I oversee, is done with one of the missions being promoting inclusivity. And so you can't do that without also attending to diversity and equity. We are somewhat restricted in what we can do because we do not have a large endowment like many other private liberal arts institutions have, where they can offer more scholarships than we can. They have more funding than we do. So, but compositional diversity of your student body and your faculty and staff is only one aspect of diversity. So what we try to do through my role and through other people's role is make sure that we are targeting outreach to those students who are not white, who do not identify as white or with the dominant population, and we do all sorts of things to help support them and help that transition. So I'm going to give you an example of ways in which my role in particular helps to support students from minoritized populations. We have a new living learning community. It's going into its second year this fall, and it is the African Diaspora Exploring Blackness Across the Globe, LLC. That LLC, of course, will appeal more to students who identify as Black than it may appeal to other students. However, all students are welcome to apply for and join this LLC. This LLC, we've created and made sure that there's a partnership with the African and African American Studies program, as well as with Elon's core curriculum. And this year we are piloting something that we think will help these students feel empowered, both in their education as well as socially as a community at our predominantly white institution, by putting them all into a class together. It's one of our first year foundations courses, and it's called the Global Experience. Now, any professor can teach that in any way that they want to. They have to meet certain learning outcomes, but they can do it through any lens that they would like to. We have a professor that is going to be doing this in designing her course intentionally so that it explores from an academic standpoint, explores Blackness across the globe and looks at different diasporas, not just the African diaspora, but other diasporas as well. And we'll give these students somewhat of a theoretical foundation to do what they're doing in their residential experiences in their living learning community. We also have applied for a $20,000 grant to take students who would qualify, who are first-gen students or underserved students who are in that particular LLC, who would have an opportunity to go do a travel abroad embedded experience. So ideally we would have them go before, and the two places that we're looking at is taking them to Ghana or taking them to the Dominican Republic. It'll depend on how much money we get for this, but that's just one example of ways in which my role in particular, through collaboration with other folks at the institution, has been able to put an emphasis and focus on, in this case, Black identified students to help them be successful in their first year of college. So my university has been, which is Elon University, for the last 4 years that I've worked here, has been great in terms of empowering me to do my job. I'd say that I am not in a position where people are constantly watching me. I'm not micromanaged. I am free to make new partnerships, to collaborate with people that my boss hasn't even thought of in terms of what I might do to be able to do my job. I'd say that what's wonderful about Elon compared to a couple other institutions that I've worked at is that when they hire someone, and this is true not just for my position but for others as well, when they hire someone to do a particular job, for the most part, if you've gone through the vetting process and you have made it as far as to be a finalist, and then they offer you the job and you accept it, they trust that you actually have the tools and skills to do the job, and that you're adult enough to be able to ask if you need more help or if you need more resources or more assistance. The other way that I think that my institution has empowered me to do my job is to help me see how the money flows how the people power flows. So it has allowed me to explore the entire structure of the organization, which helps me understand who I need to go to for what. Since my job is really about connecting people in order to serve our students in a particular way, I need to know who has access to what so that I can figure out who to go to. And when I have had questions about that, I've had absolutely no problem getting the answer. So there is a high degree of transparency at the institution, much more so than I've experienced in other places. We have our budget committee, for example, does four public presentations every year, and the entire university community is invited to participate in those. And so there's just a level of transparency there that allows one to have access to information that at other institutions I've found is held a little bit more closer to the vest, so to speak. And so when you have more transparency, you have more information, and therefore you're empowered to do more things.